Hello guys and welcome back. So in this section we'll talk about components. So components are the basic building blocks of an Angular application. Every Angular application can be visualized as a tree of components. So components are basically what you as a user of the web application would see onto the screen. Okay. And basically the templates of a component is something that you'll see on the screen. Okay. Now components are a subset of directives. So as we have already seen that directives in Angular are of three types: structural directives, attribute directives, and component directives. So component are also a subset of directives, but they are simply called components in Angular. Okay, these are the only types of directives that has a template attached to it. Okay, and to create a component in Angular, we decorate a simple TypeScript class with a component decorator. That is something that we have already seen. And then we also provide some metadata to the component decorator while calling it. Okay, and this metadata contains some information as to how should the component be processed, instantiated, and used at the runtime. So it has things like selector that generally specifies the tag with which we can use that component, and there are various other metadata fields that we'll talk about soon. Now, to use a component inside an Angular application in a particular module, you'll have to add that component or register that component, I must say, to the declarations array of the ng module decorator. Okay, and then a component has about 8 lifecycle hooks that we would be talking about soon in the later sections of this series. Okay, so these are some metadata that a component can have. Okay, so it has the selector, which is a CSS, which is the CSS selector, or this is the tag that you will actually use in the template in the HTML of some other component or that of an index.html. So the app component that we have here, here's the selector app-root, and this is the selector with which we have used it inside our index.html file. Okay, so this would be the tag that would be used, and this would eventually be injected with the template of this particular app component. Okay, inside the index.html. Okay, um, if we have a look at this, if we inspect this whole element here, okay, um, inside here you'll see that we have the app root, which signifies this, but the app root was empty in here in the index.html. But if we open this app root, this will have some markup, and this markup right here is the markup of the app components HTML. Okay, all right. Apart from that, we have things like a template. So if you want to define inline templates for a particular component, then you can do that using the template template field. If you have a large template, though, it is recommended that you create a different template file for that particular template and link it to the components metadata, like we have done here. Okay, so the app components template was a bit big, so it is always recommended that we create a separate template file and then use the template URL field inside the metadata of the component decorator to specify the template. Okay, then we have things like style URLs, and since this is an array, this can contain multiple URLs of styling sheets that can be, or cascading style sheets that can be used inside that particular template. Apart from that, we have things like providers, and in providers we can add a list of services that can be used as a dependency for that particular component. Now this doing this here will create a new instance of a service. But if we can, so we have providers array in the component metadata as well, and we have that in the modules metadata as well right here. Okay, so if we create or if we add a service name to the providers array of the module decorator of a module, then Angular will create just one instance of that service, and it would be used and consumed by all the things that have been declared for that particular module. Okay, but if in the same module, if there is a component and that component has added a providers array to its metadata, something like this, and have specified some service name here like this. Okay, now the some service would a new instance of this some service would be created, and this would be exclusive to this particular component itself, and this instance right here, and the instance that would be created on the root of the application would be different in that case. Okay. Then we have animations that we can use to provide a list of animations for that particular component, so that it could be animated in some sort when this is loaded onto the template of its parent component. Then we have encapsulation that specifies the style encapsulation strategy for that component. Now, whenever you write some styling in the app.component.css, this particular styling that is defined in the CSS of a particular component would be uh, would not be exposed to the outside components. Okay, so only app components template will be able to use the styles that have been provided in this particular style sheet. Okay, but that is something that can be changed using the encapsulation field here. Okay, so right here, view encapsulation has three values: native, emulated, and none. So if you don't want to use any encapsulation, then you can use view encapsulation.none, and by default it is native, I guess. I'm not sure though, but this is something that can be used to uh, you know encapsulate your styles in a component. Then you have the change detection field, and change detection is something that we'll have a look at once we are done with the component. But this is a field that can be used to specify the change detection strategy on a component. There are two types of change detection strategies generally. There is on push, and then there is default. Okay, and we'll have a look at what these two are. But this is also something that can be used to tune up the performance of your application and speed up the change detection mechanism inside your Angular applications. Okay, um, now to create a component, you can use Angular CLI to do that. So you can simply type in the command ng space g, that is for generate, space c, that is for component, space the name of your component. And what this command will do is it will create a folder with the component name and place 4 files inside that component folder. One of them would be the style sheet for that component. The other one would be the template for that component. This one would be the test case file for the component class, and this would be the component class itself. Okay, and by default, Angular CLI also adds or registers this component to the app module by adding it to the declarations array. Okay, so in the next section we'll quickly create a component, and then we'll also have a look at different ways in which the the template of a component and the component class itself interact with each other. So I'll see you on the other side. Thanks a lot.